The lions growled, their yellow eyes glowing in the shadows of the den. The mother clutched her baby tightly to her chest, her heart beating louder than the roars around her. The child whimpered softly, innocent and unaware of the danger. The wicked king stood above, looking down into the den with a cruel smile. "Since you refuse to obey me," he said, his voice echoing like thunder, "then you and your precious child will feed the lions together." The heavy gate slammed shut behind them. The sound of the iron lock echoed in the mother's ears, and the lions inched closer. She closed her eyes, whispering prayers, while her child began to cry louder and louder. Would the hungry lions devour them before morning? Or was there a hidden power greater than the king's wickedness waiting to appear? Before we continue, please like and subscribe and let us know where you're watching from. Long before the night of the lion's den, the land of Acambra was a place of music, laughter, and peace. The villagers rose with the sun, their drums beating in rhythm with the pounding of pestles as women prepared meals. Children ran barefoot across the red earth, chasing goats and kites made of palm leaves. The air was filled with the smell of roasted yam, smoke from clay ovens, and the joyful noise of people who believed in unity. But even in a land so bright, there was a shadow. The throne of Acambra belonged to King Ogudu, a ruler feared more than loved. His crown was heavy with pride, and his words were law. Though the people bowed to him, behind their smiles they trembled, for King Ogudu was quick to anger and delighted in cruelty. Among the villagers lived a woman named Nkemdelai, meaning "my own will never be lost." Her name had always given her hope, even in the darkest years of her life. For 18 long years, she had lived as a wife without a child. Her womb had been silent, and her heart had been mocked by whispers. In the marketplace, some women avoided her, others pitied her, and some even sneered, saying, "What use is a calabash that holds no water?" Nkemdelai carried her pain quietly. Each time she returned from the river with empty pots, she felt the weight of her empty arms. Nights were worse when she lay beside her husband, Obinna, and wondered if the gods had forgotten her. Yet she never lost faith. She prayed at dawn, prayed at dusk, and prayed even when the rains thundered and no one else could hear her voice. One day, after 18 years of waiting, her prayers were answered. She felt the quickening of life inside her, and soon, her belly grew round like the harvest moon. The entire village was stunned. Women who had mocked her before came bearing gifts of beads and wrappers. Men nodded respectfully, whispering that the gods must truly favor her. When her baby boy was born, she named him Kaimila, meaning "God has done it." To Nkemdelai, he was more precious than gold. She sang to him every morning, rocking him with songs of hope. She fed him with love, clothed him with joy, and shielded him with prayers. Kaimila's laughter became the music of her heart, and for the first time in nearly 2 decades, she walked the marketplace with her head lifted high. But joy often draws the eyes of envy, and envy never sleeps long. For King Ogudu had no heir of his own. His palace was filled with wives, yet none had given him a child. His heart burned when he heard of Nkemdelai's miracle. "How can a common woman," he spat, "be blessed with a son while a king like me remains empty-handed?" His envy grew into anger, and his anger into wickedness. When Kaimila was born, the entire village of Acambra rejoiced. The cries of the long-awaited child echoed through the huts, and women danced with joy. Nkemdelai, who had waited 18 long years in sorrow and prayers, held her baby close, her tears of happiness soaking his tiny blanket. But far away in the king's palace another sound echoed, the rattle of cowrie shells and bones. The king's chief sorcerer, Azemuo, had entered his dark chamber the very night the child was born. He cast his divination tools across the mat, his eyes rolling back as he muttered ancient incantations. When he opened them, his face was pale with dread. "My king," he said, bowing low before King Ogudu, "the gods have spoken. The child born this night in Acambra is no ordinary child. He is the one destined to bring an end to your reign. His cry will shake your throne. His life will undo all your power. The king's eyes blazed with anger and fear. Which child? Speak clearly. The sorcerer's voice trembled. The son of Nkemdalai, the barren woman who has now been blessed. That boy is the one. King Ogudu shot to his feet, his crown almost slipping from his head. His voice thundered across the chamber. After all I have done to hold this throne, after all the blood I have spilled, will a mere infant bring me down? Never. Ezemuo bowed his head. The only way to silence the prophecy is to silence the child. That night, the king summoned his guards. His face was cold, his heart hardened by fear. Bring Nkemdalai and her child to me, he commanded. She shall feed him to the lions. Let the gods see if their prophecy survives the fangs of beasts. During the hot afternoon, the palace guards arrived at Nkemdalai's compound. Their spears glittered under the sun, their eyes hard as stone. By the order of King Ogudu, the tallest of them declared, "You are summoned to the palace with your child." Nkemdalai's heart thumped. She looked down at Kaimila, who was asleep in her arms. Her husband Obinna protested, but the guards silenced him with the slam of their spears against the ground. "No one disobeys the king," they warned. The villagers gathered as she walked behind the guards, whispering among themselves. "Why would the king call her?" some asked. "What does he want with the baby?" others murmured. Inside the palace, the walls were cold and the air thick with fear. King Ogudu sat on his carved throne of ivory, his eyes burning with cruelty. He looked down at Nkemdalai and her baby, and his lips curled into a smile that chilled her bones. "Nkemdalai," he began, "after 18 years you have finally birthed a child, and I, your king, have none. The gods must be testing me. If you are truly loyal to your king, then prove it." He leaned forward, his voice low and dangerous. "Take your only child, and feed him to my lions." Nkemdalai gasped. The words struck her like thunder. She clutched Kaimila tighter, her body trembling. "My king, please," she begged, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Ask me for anything else. Take my house, my land, my life. But not my child." The king's eyes darkened. "So, you refuse me?" Her silence was answer enough. King Ogudu slammed his staff against the floor. "Then you and your precious child will both enter the lion's den. Let us see whose will is stronger, the king's command or a mother's love." The guards seized her arms as Kaimila began to wail in her embrace. The sound echoed through the palace, a cry that pierced every heart that heard it. But the king only smiled. That night, as the torches burned low and the lions roared in hunger, the gate to the den creaked open. And Nkemdalai, clutching her baby, was pushed inside. The heavy iron gate clanged shut behind her. The lions turned their heads toward the mother and child. Their eyes glowed in the darkness. Their paws scraped the earth as they drew nearer. Her breath caught in her throat. What would happen next? The night was still young, but fear had already wrapped itself around the village of Akambara. Women gathered in small circles, whispering about Nkemdalai. "How can the king be so heartless?" one asked. "Is it a crime to be blessed with a child?" Another replied, shaking her head. Men clenched their fists but said nothing aloud. Everyone knew the danger of speaking against King Ogudu. Back in her compound, Obinna sat in silence. The fire had gone out, and the shadows of the clay walls pressed close around him. He could still hear the cries of his wife as the guards dragged her away, her pleas mixing with the wailing of their baby. His chest ached with helplessness. To fight the king was to invite death, yet to sit in silence was to betray his family. That night, he lay on the cold ground, his tears soaking the earth. Inside the lion's den, the air smelled of blood and raw meat. The floor was littered with old bones, reminders of the beast's hunger. Nkemdalai stood trembling, her arms wrapped around Kaimila. The baby stirred and began to cry again, his small voice echoing across the stone walls. The lions moved slowly, circling her like shadows. Their muscles rippled under their golden coats, their teeth flashing each time they opened their mouths to roar. Nkemdelai's legs felt weak, but her spirit remained strong. "O God of the heavens," she whispered, "you gave me this child after 18 years. Do not let him be taken from me tonight." One of the lions crept closer, its eyes fixed on Kaimila. Nkemdelai held her baby tighter and stepped back until her back touched the cold stone wall. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst. Suddenly, Kaimila's cries grew louder. The lions paused, tilting their heads as if confused. One of them sniffed the air, then let out a deep growl that made the others retreat slightly. Nkemdelai blinked in shock. The beasts were not attacking, at least not yet. It was as if some unseen hand was holding them back. At that same moment, King Ogudu sat in his palace, restless. He had expected to hear the lions devour mother and child by now, but the night was silent. Anger boiled in him. "Perhaps they are playing with their food," he muttered. "By dawn, nothing will remain of them." But dawn came, and the drums of a Canberra sounded to announce the new day. To everyone's amazement, Nkemdelai was still alive. When the guards went to check, they saw her sitting against the wall, Kaimila asleep in her arms, while the lions lay around them like harmless cats. Not one scratch had touched them. The guards were speechless. They returned to the king, their faces pale. "My lord," the tallest one stammered, "the woman and the child live. The lions have not harmed them." King Ogudu's face twisted with rage. "Impossible! Take her out at once. I will deal with this insult myself." The people of the village soon heard of the miracle. Whispers spread through the marketplace like wildfire. "Did you hear? The lions would not eat her. The gods must be with her. Perhaps the king's heart will soften now." But the king's heart only hardened more. When Nkemdelai was dragged before him again, he glared at her with burning eyes. "So, the gods protect you. Then we shall see how long their protection lasts. You will face trials until your pride is broken. Refuse me again, and I will make your suffering worse than death." Nkemdelai's knees shook, but she lifted her chin. "I will never hand over my child to your lions," she said firmly. "You may punish me as you please, but Kaimila is my son, and I will die before I betray him." The court gasped. No one had ever dared speak to King Ogudu in such a manner. His face darkened, and his staff struck the floor with thunderous force. "Very well," he roared. "If the lions will not kill you, then you will journey to the sacred hills. There you will bring me the golden leaf of the eternal tree. Fail, and both you and your child will perish." The guards dragged her out once again, but this time she was not pushed into the lion's den. She was thrown into the dust of the palace courtyard. Her baby still clutched to her chest. Her eyes welled with tears, but her spirit did not break. She looked at the rising sun and whispered, "If I must walk through fire to save my son, then so be it." The journey to the sacred hills was known to be filled with dangers, wild animals, trickster spirits, and paths that swallowed travelers whole. Many who went never returned. As she prepared to leave, the villagers watched from a distance. Some pitied her, others feared even being seen close to her. Only one old woman, wrinkled and bent like an ancient tree, dared to whisper as Nkemdelai passed. "Remember, child, not all who walk with you are friends, and not all enemies are truly against you." Nkemdelai stopped, confused by the riddle. But before she could ask what the woman meant, the guards pushed her forward. Her journey had begun, and with each step, the sound of Kaimila's small breaths on her shoulder reminded her of what was at stake. But ahead the forest was waiting, and in its shadows something stirred. The forest of Canberra was unlike any ordinary forest. Its trees rose like giants, their roots twisting across the earth like sleeping serpents. Birds with bright feathers sang from the branches, while monkeys leapt from tree to tree, chattering in warning at strangers who dared to enter. Nkemdelai stepped carefully, Kaimila tied to her back with a wrapper, his small hands resting against her shoulders. The weight of her son reminded her why she could not give up. Yet fear gnawed at her heart. The sacred hills were far beyond this forest, and the path was filled with dangers that had swallowed braver souls. The villagers who had seen her leave whispered prayers in silence. Some pitied her courage, others believed she would never return. But Nkemdelai's steps did not falter. Her spirit was fueled by something stronger than fear, a mother's love. First, the forest was calm. She gathered wild berries to feed herself, while Kaimila suckled peacefully. She drank from cool streams that glistened in the sunlight, her ears sharp for every rustle in the bushes. But by the second night, the forest revealed its true nature. As she tried to sleep beneath a tree, a strange laughter echoed through the dark. It was not the laughter of men nor of beasts, but something in between. Nkemdelai sat upright, clutching her son to her chest. "Who is there?" she whispered. From the shadows a figure appeared, neither old nor young, neither man nor woman. Its eyes glowed like fireflies, and its grin stretched wider than any human should. "A traveler," it sang, swaying from side to side. "A traveler in my forest, carrying a sweet-smelling child." Nkemdelai's heart raced. She had heard tales of the trickster spirit, Ajanu, who dwelled in the forest. Some said Ajanu led travelers to safety, while others claimed he lured them to their deaths. "What do you want from me?" Nkemdelai asked, her voice steady though her hands shook. Ajanu laughed again, a sound like drums rolling. "What do I want? I want to play a game. If you win, I will guide you. If you lose, I will take your child." The spirit's words cut her like a blade. "No!" she cried, holding Kaimila tighter. "Ah, but you cannot refuse," Ajanu replied, circling her slowly. "This is my forest, and games are the only way out." Nkemdelai swallowed hard. "What is the game?" Ajanu grinned. "It is simple. I will ask you 3 riddles. Answer them correctly, and you may pass safely. Fail, and the child will be mine." The night seemed to hold its breath. The wind stilled. The trees bent closer, as if they too wished to hear the riddles. Nkemdelai closed her eyes for a moment, whispering a prayer. "Lord, give me wisdom." Then she nodded. "Ask your riddles." Ajanu clapped his hands. "Good. The first riddle. I speak without a mouth and hear without ears. I have no body, but I come alive with wind. What am I?" Nkemdelai thought quickly. She remembered her husband Obinna once teaching children riddles by the fireside. She whispered the answer. "An echo." Ajanu's grin widened. "Correct. But that was easy. Let us try again." He leaned closer, his voice like a hiss. "The second riddle. I am not alive, but I grow. I have no lungs, but I need air. I have no mouth, but water kills me. What am I?" Nkemdelai frowned, her mind racing. Kaimila stirred on her back, and she felt his warmth. "Not alive, but grows. Air keeps it alive, water kills it." Then it struck her. "Fire!" Ajanu clapped again, laughing so loudly that the birds in the trees flew away in fright. "You are clever, woman. But now the last riddle. Fail this one, and your child is mine." The trickster's eyes glowed brighter, his grin more dangerous. "The third riddle. The more of me you take, the more you leave behind." What am I? Nkemdelai's breath caught. Her mind struggled to keep calm. "The more you take, the more you leave behind." She repeated it to herself. Suddenly, she remembered the path she had walked since leaving the village, the red earth marked by her footprints. Her eyes widened. She smiled faintly. "The answer is footsteps." Ajanu froze, his grin fading for the first time. Then, slowly, it returned even wider. "You are wise, woman. Too wise." The spirit bowed dramatically. "You have won. Take the path to the east when the sun rises. But beware, your journey is far from over. The sacred hills do not give their treasures easily." With that, Ajanu vanished into the shadows, leaving only the sound of laughter drifting away like smoke. Nkemdelai collapsed to her knees, tears spilling down her cheeks. She pressed her lips to Kaimila's forehead. "We are safe, my son," she whispered. "At least for now." But as the sun rose, painting the forest in gold, she saw the eastern path, and on it, the faint paw prints of a beast much larger than a lion. Something was waiting for her. Something far worse. The eastern path stretched before Nkemdalai like a serpent of red earth winding deeper into the unknown. The forest was quieter here, too quiet. Even the birds had stopped singing, as though they feared what lay ahead. Nkemdalai adjusted Kaimila on her back, his little fingers curling into her wrapper. Her body ached from sleepless nights, her feet were sore from walking barefoot, but her spirit held firm. She had won against the trickster spirit Ajanu, but she knew the hardest part was yet to come. By midday, the air grew hot and heavy. She wiped sweat from her brow and bent to drink from a shallow stream. As she knelt, she noticed them. Giant paw prints pressed deep into the mud. Her breath caught. These were not the paw prints of lions. They were larger, heavier. Something enormous had passed through. The old woman's riddle-like warning echoed in her mind. Not all who walk with you are friends. And not all enemies are truly against you. She stood quickly and hurried along the path, but the further she walked, the clearer the signs became. Broken branches, crushed grass, a musky smell in the air, and then low rumbling growls. From the shadows of the trees, it emerged. A massive leopard, bigger than any she had ever seen, its coat shimmering gold and black under the sunlight. Its eyes locked on Nkemdalai, its body crouched, ready to spring. Nkemdalai froze. Her heart pounded so loudly she feared the beast could hear it. Kaimila stirred on her back and whimpered, his small cry cutting through the silence. The leopard's ears twitched. Its tail lashed the air. "God of my fathers," Nkemdalai whispered, "you saved us from the lions, save us now." The beast growled, baring its teeth, and stepped closer. Nkemdalai had nothing but a small calabash gourd of water and a stick she had picked from the path. She raised the stick, though it felt like holding a blade of grass against a storm. The leopard lunged. Nkemdalai screamed and swung the stick with all her strength. The blow caught the beast across its nose. The leopard recoiled, snarling in fury, its eyes blazing. It circled her now, more cautious, growling low. Nkemdalai's knees trembled, but she stood firm. "If I die," she muttered, "I will die fighting for my son." Suddenly, Kaimila began to cry louder than before, his wails piercing the air like a trumpet. The leopard stopped in its tracks, its ears flattening. It let out a strange, almost fearful growl, then stepped back. Nkemdalai blinked in shock. Could it be? The beast was retreating. The leopard paced back and forth, snarling, but each time Kaimila cried, it flinched as though struck. Finally, with a final roar, it turned and vanished into the trees. Nkemdalai fell to her knees, clutching Kaimila tightly. Her whole body shook. Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Your cry, my son," she whispered, rocking him. "Your cry is our shield." But her relief was short-lived. For just as she rose to continue her journey, she heard movement again. This time not of a beast but of voices. Human voices. From the shadows stepped 3 men, their faces hidden by cloth, their bodies armed with spears and bows. "Bandits. Look here, brothers," the tallest one sneered. "A woman alone with a child. Easy prey." The second laughed. "Perhaps the king sent her. Or perhaps she carries treasure." Nkemdalai's heart sank. She had escaped the leopard, only to fall into the hands of men whose hearts were more dangerous than any beast. She tightened her grip on Kaimila, her eyes darting for a way to run, but the men closed in, blocking every path. The tallest raised his spear. "Hand over the child," he ordered, his voice cold, "or you will not live to take another step." The bandits moved closer, their spears glinting in the sunlight that pierced through the forest canopy. Nkemdalai's throat went dry. She pressed Kaimila tighter to her back, her eyes darting left and right, searching for an escape. But the men had her surrounded. The tallest bandit jabbed his spear forward, the tip stopping inches from her chest. "I said hand over the child," he barked. Her knees shook, but her voice came out firm. "Over my dead body." The second bandit laughed cruelly. "That can be arranged." But before the spear could strike, the third man, silent until now, stepped forward. "Wait," he said, his voice lower, calmer than the others. He pulled down the cloth covering his face. Kemdalai gasped. His eyes were familiar. His cheek had a scar that she recognized instantly. "Obioma," she whispered. The man's eyes widened at the sound of his name. You know me." "Yes," Nkemdalai said quickly. "You are Obioma, son of Neka the basket weaver. You disappeared many seasons ago. The village thought you were dead." The other two bandits turned to him sharply. "What is this?" the tallest demanded. Obioma's spear lowered slightly. His eyes darted between Kemdalai and his companions. Memories flickered in his mind, the days of his youth in Akambra, his mother's gentle songs, the warmth of his people before he was forced into exile. "She speaks the truth," Obioma muttered. "I knew her when I was a boy. She was always kind." The tallest bandit spat. "Kindness feeds no stomach. The king cast us out, remember? If we had waited for kindness, we'd be bones by now." Kemdalai's heart raced. She saw the struggle in Obioma's eyes. This was her chance. "Obioma," she said softly, her voice trembling but steady. "You know me. You know my heart. I am on a journey for my child's life. The king has sent me to the sacred hills. If you harm us, you will be no better than him. But if you help us," she paused, swallowing hard, "perhaps the gods will remember your name with honor." The forest grew still again, as if holding its breath. Obioma's grip on his spear loosened. His gaze shifted to Kaimila, whose small eyes peeked out from the cloth on his mother's back. The child let out a soft whimper. Something inside Obioma cracked. He turned to his companions. "We will not harm them," he said firmly. The second bandit snarled. "Have you gone mad? She is nothing but a woman with a child." "Enough," Obioma snapped. "This woman once fed me when I was hungry. I owe her a debt. If you want her blood, you will spill mine first." A tense silence fell between the three men. Finally, with curses under their breath, the other two lowered their weapons. "Do as you wish, Obioma," the tallest spat. "But when her bones rot in the sacred hills, remember it was your choice." The bandits disappeared into the trees, leaving Obioma standing before Nkemdalai. His shoulders sagged, as though years of bitterness weighed him down. "I should not even be here," he murmured. "The king drove me and others out for stealing food when famine struck. We had no choice." Nkemdalai's eyes softened. "You are not lost forever, Obioma. You can still choose the right path. Help me help my son." Obioma's jaw tightened. For a moment he said nothing. Then he nodded. "The path ahead is worse than you can imagine. But I will guide you for as long as I can." Relief washed over Nkemdalai. She whispered a prayer of thanks, her eyes glistening with tears. That night, Obioma built a small fire for them in a hidden clearing. As Kaimila slept, Obioma told her of the dangers ahead. Dark rivers that swallowed travelers, spirits that lured with sweet voices, cliffs that crumbled underfoot. But he also told her something else, something that made her blood run cold. "The sacred hills are guarded," Obioma said, his eyes reflecting the flames. "Not by beasts, not by spirits, but by the king's own warriors. He does not expect you to return, Nkemdalai. He has set a trap." Nkemdalai's heart pounded. "So this is not just a trial. It is a death sentence." Obioma nodded grimly. "Unless," he hesitated, "unless you find the one thing the king fears most." Her voice shook. "And what is that?" Obioma leaned closer, his whisper barely above the crackle of fire. "The truth." Before she could ask what he meant, the fire suddenly hissed and died. From the darkness, came the sound of drums, low, steady, approaching. Obioma leapt to his feet, his face pale. "They've found us." The forest trembled with the sound of drums. Deep, steady, and unrelenting, they grew louder with each beat, echoing through the night like the footsteps of giants. Nkemdelai clutched Kaimila to her chest, her heart racing. Obioma's hand tightened around his spear. "It is them," he whispered. "The king's hunters. They are trained to track anyone who enters these woods." "Hunters?" Kemdelai gasped. "But why would the king send them? I am already on a journey that could kill me." Obioma's face hardened. "Because the king never meant for you to return. He gave you an impossible task, and now he sends his men to make sure you fail." Branches snapped nearby. Torches flickered in the darkness, drawing closer. Shadows of armed men stretched across the trees. "Run," Obioma hissed. He grabbed Nkemdelai's hand and pulled her along the narrow path. The ground was rough, the roots twisted like traps, but Nkemdelai forced her legs to move, every muscle aching as she tried to keep up. Kaimila whimpered softly against her back, his cry almost drowned by the drums. They ran until their lungs burned, but the hunters were relentless. Dogs barked, their howls piercing the night. Obioma stopped suddenly, dragging Nkemdelai behind a thick tree. "Listen to me," he whispered urgently. "There is a hidden cave near the riverbank. The hunters don't know it exists. If we can reach it, we may survive the night." Nkemdelai's breath came in short gasps. "Then let's go." But before they could move, a spear flew past them, striking the tree with a thud. The hunters had found them. "Obioma!" a voice shouted through the night. "So, you betray the king again. First a thief, now a traitor." More torches appeared, surrounding them from all sides. Nkemdelai's heart sank as she counted at least 6 hunters, their spears glinting, their dogs growling at the scent of prey. The leader stepped forward, a tall man with scars across his arms and a necklace of lion's teeth. His eyes locked on Nkemdelai with cruel satisfaction. "The king was right," he sneered. "You are stubborn, woman. But stubbornness will not save you tonight." His gaze shifted to Kaimila. "Hand over the child. His blood belongs to the lions, as the king commanded." Nkemdelai's knees shook, but she stood firm, her voice trembling with fury. "Over my dead body." The leader chuckled. "So be it." He raised his hand, signaling his men to close in. Obioma stepped forward, placing himself between Nkemdelai and the hunters. His spear trembled in his grip, but his stance was firm. "You will not touch her," he growled. The hunters laughed. "And you will stop us, Obioma. You, an outcast who could not even protect his own people." Obioma's jaw tightened. "Maybe I failed before. But tonight I will not fail again." With a roar, he lunged at the nearest hunter, his spear clashing against theirs. The forest erupted in chaos. Shouts, the clash of weapons, the cries of dogs. Firelight danced wildly across the trees. Nkemdelai ducked behind the tree, clutching Kaimila tightly as the battle raged. She could hear Obioma's grunts of effort, the clash of metal, the thud of fists and spears. For a moment, hope flickered in her heart. But then a cry of pain. Obioma stumbled, blood staining his side. "No!" Nkemdelai screamed. The hunters pressed forward, their spears pointed at him. Obioma struggled to stand, his eyes locking on Nkemdelai. "Run!" he shouted, his voice raw with pain. "Take the child and run." But the hunters were too close. The leader stepped forward, raising his spear high, ready to strike. Nkemdelai's heart pounded. She knew she could not fight them all. She knew she could not run fast enough with Kaimila on her back. Then, in the chaos, something strange happened. The drums suddenly stopped. The hunters froze, their spears still raised. The dogs whimpered, tails tucked. From the shadows of the forest, a deep voice echoed, calm but powerful. "Enough!" Every head turned. From the darkness, a figure stepped forward, cloaked in leaves and feathers, carrying a staff that glowed faintly with light. His presence was so commanding that even the hunters bowed their heads in fear. Nkemdelai's breath caught. She had heard tales of this figure but never believed them. It was the forest guardian, the spirit said to protect the land when blood was spilled unjustly. He raised his staff. "This woman's trial is not yours to decide," he said, his voice like thunder. "Leave or face the wrath of the forest itself." The hunters trembled, but the leader's jaw clenched. He did not lower his spear. And the air grew colder, as though the forest itself was waiting for his choice. The night air was thick with silence. Even the hunters' dogs whimpered and crept backward, their ears flat, their tails between their legs. The forest guardian stood tall, his glowing staff casting eerie light across the trees. His cloak of feathers and leaves shimmered as though alive, moving gently though no wind blew. Nkemdelai clutched Kaimila tightly, her heart racing. She had never seen such power before, neither man nor beast but something greater. The leader of the hunters spat on the ground, gripping his spear. This woman defied the king. She deserves death. No spirit can save her from his command. The guardian's eyes glowed brighter, like embers in the dark. The king's command. His voice thundered. It is not the king who decides life and death. It is the truth. His staff struck the ground, and the earth trembled. Roots burst from the soil, wrapping around the hunter's legs. They cried out, struggling, but the roots held fast. The leader's spear fell from his hands as he fought in vain. Obioma, bleeding and weak, looked up at the guardian with wide eyes. Why would you help us?" he asked hoarsely. The guardian's gaze shifted to Nkemdelai. "Because this woman carries more than a child. She carries the hope of the land. The gods themselves have marked her." Nkemdelai's breath caught. "The gods? But I am just a woman. I only want to save my son." The guardian stepped closer, lowering his staff. His voice softened. "Your courage, your love, your refusal to bow to cruelty. These are not small things, Nkemdelai. They are greater than the pride of kings." The hunters trembled as the roots tightened around them. The leader snarled. "You speak of truth. What truth could a barren woman know? She should have remained childless, as the gods willed." Nkemdelai flinched at his words, but the guardian's staff glowed brighter. "Silence," he thundered. "You speak of what you do not know. This child was not born by chance. He was chosen." Nkemdelai's eyes widened. "Chosen?" The guardian nodded. "Yes, your son Kaimila is not just your blessing. He is the sign that the wicked king's reign will end. His cry, his life, his very presence carries power. Did you not see? The lions did not touch him. The leopard fled from his cry. Even now, the forest bends to protect him." The words struck Nkemdelai like lightning. She remembered, the lions cowering, the leopard retreating, Kaimila's wail echoing like a shield. Could it be true? Her child was destined for something greater. The leader of the hunters growled, his face twisted with fear and rage. "Lies! Lies to poison the people against the king." But the guardian's eyes pierced him like fire. "No, the truth cannot be buried. The king knew this child was chosen. That is why he fears him. That is why he sent this woman to her death." Obioma groaned, clutching his wound. So the king, he knew all along. The guardian lifted his staff once more. The roots released the hunters, but they collapsed to the ground, trembling. His voice rang out, firm and commanding. "Go! Return to your master. Tell him his time is short. Tell him the truth is rising, and no cruelty can silence it." Terrified, the hunters fled into the night, leaving behind only their fallen torches. The guardian turned back to Nkemdelai. His expression softened. "Your journey is not over. The sacred hills await. There you will find the golden leaf of the eternal tree. But remember, your greatest battle is not against beasts or men. It is against fear and against lies. Nkemdalai bowed her head, her tears falling freely. I do not know if I have the strength. The guardian placed a hand on her shoulder. Strength is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to keep walking, even when fear stands in your path. He tapped the ground with his staff, and the path ahead glowed faintly, leading toward the distant hills that rose like dark shadows against the sky. Go, Nkemdalai, he said. The fate of your child and of your people rests on what you do next. And then, like smoke, the guardian vanished. Nkemdalai stood trembling in the silence that followed, Kaimila warm against her back, Obioma bleeding but alive beside her. The path ahead glowed faintly, leading to the sacred hills. Her heart pounded. She knew the final trial awaited her. The sacred hills loomed in the distance, sharp and jagged against the night sky. Their peaks glowed faintly, as if kissed by the moonlight. Nkemdalai stood at the edge of the glowing path the forest guardian had shown her. Kaimila slept quietly on her back, his small breaths warm against her skin. Obioma leaned heavily on his spear, his wound slowing him but his spirit still strong. Are you ready? Obioma asked, his voice strained. Nkemdalai looked at the hills, her heart trembling. I must be. For Kaimila. For us all. They began the climb. The earth was rough, the stones sharp, but Nkemdalai pressed forward, each step heavy with fear and hope. As they climbed higher, the air grew colder, and the wind howled like spirits warning them to turn back. At last they reached the summit, where a single tree stood, its bark silver, its branches wide, its leaves shimmering gold. The eternal tree. Nkemdalai's breath caught. She reached out, trembling, and plucked a single golden leaf. The moment she held it, the wind ceased, the earth stilled, and a warm light wrapped around her and Kaimila like a shield. But then, a roar of anger shattered the silence. From the shadows, the king's warriors appeared, more than a dozen, their spears raised. And with them was the king himself, King Ogudu, his crown glinting in the torchlight, his face twisted with fury. So the woman defies me again, he spat. You dare return with what I forbade you to find. Nkemdalai's knees shook, but she held Kaimila close and raised the golden leaf high. I did not come to defy you, O king. I came to survive, as any mother would. The king's laugh was cruel. Survive. No one survives me. Guards, seize her. But before the warriors could move, a great cry pierced the air. Kaimila's wail, louder and sharper than ever before. The ground trembled. The eternal tree glowed brighter. The warriors froze, their spears slipping from their hands. The king stumbled back, clutching his chest as though the cry burned him. What is this sorcery? The forest guardian's voice echoed across the hilltop, though he was nowhere to be seen. It is not sorcery. It is truth. The child you sought to destroy is the one the gods have chosen. His cry carries the voice of justice. His life carries the end of your reign. The king's face drained of color. His warriors fell to their knees, bowing their heads to Nkemdalai. One by one they dropped their weapons at her feet. No! King Ogudu screamed. I am your king. Obey me. But the people no longer looked at him. They looked at Nkemdalai and her child, their eyes filled with reverence. The golden leaf in Nkemdalai's hand burst into radiant light, wrapping her and Kaimila in a glow so bright that the king shielded his eyes. The ground beneath him cracked. With a final cry of rage, King Ogudu stumbled backward, and the earth swallowed him whole. His crown rolled down the hill, lost forever. Silence fell. Then the people cheered. Nkemdalai! Nkemdalai! Kaimila! Their voices echoed across the sacred hills. Obioma dropped to one knee, bowing before her. You are no longer just a mother. You are the savior of Akambara. Tears streamed down Nkemdalai's face. She held Kaimila close, whispering, You are safe, my son. You are free. In the days that followed, the news spread quickly. The wicked king was gone. Nkemdalai and Kaimila returned to the village, where the people welcomed them with songs and dances. They built a new throne, not for a tyrant, but for justice. Nkemdalai, though humble, was crowned as the guardian of the people, her wisdom guiding the land. Kaimila grew strong and wise, loved by all, a child of hope and courage. And Obioma, once an outcast, was restored to honor and made leader of the king's warriors, now sworn to protect the people rather than oppress them. The golden leaf was placed in the heart of the village shrine, a symbol of truth that no lie could destroy. And so, Canberra flourished in peace once more.